Imagine an elderly man, world famous, respected by science and medicine, who suddenly disappears from academic halls. He is found weeks later, not at a conference, but covered in dust and sweat, dragging heavy stones with his own bare hands by a freezing lake in Switzerland. Neighbors whisper. They say he has gone mad. They say he is talking to the stones. But Carl Jung was not just building a vacation home. He was committing the most dangerous act a human being can attempt. He was building an exact replica of his own psyche in the physical world. The Bollingen Tower has no electricity, no telephone, and its corridors were designed to confuse time itself. What he discovered inside, in absolute silence, changed everything we know about the human mind. And what if I told you that the architecture of your house today is the reason for your anxiety? Jung discovered the secret of the walls, and he left the map in the stones. Before we enter this labyrinth of stone and shadow, I need you to make a conscious choice. Most people watch videos to escape reality. This video was made to return you to it. If you feel you live in a mental house that does not belong to you, built with the expectations of others, this channel is your refuge. Subscribe now, not to consume content, but to begin your own construction. And leave in the comments, am I the architect of my soul, or am I just a tenant? Your answer defines how you will absorb what comes next. Let us enter the tower. In 1922, Carl Jung felt a spiritual nausea. The modern world, with its ringing phones, speeding cars, and the superficiality of social relations, had become unbearable to his sharpened sensitivity. He realized that civilization was a thin layer of ice over an ocean of ancient instincts, and he needed a place where the ice did not exist. Bollingen began not as an architectural project, but as a necessity for psychic survival. He bought an isolated plot of land near Lake Zurich, a place that seemed to vibrate with ancestral energy. Jung did not hire a large construction firm. He wanted his own hands to touch the matter. He understood that to heal the split between the intellectual mind and the instinctive body, it was necessary to return to manipulating earth, stone, and wood. The construction was not a means to an end. It was the ritual itself. Each stone laid was a solidified thought. Each wall erected was a limit imposed on the chaos of the outside world. He was creating a temenos, a Greek term for a sacred piece of land, separated from common use and dedicated to the gods, or in this case, to the God who inhabited his unconscious. Unlike modern houses, square and full of right angles that cut energy and separate spaces, the first structure Jung erected at Bollingen was a circular tower. This was not aesthetic, it was visceral. The circle is the symbol of wholeness, of the complete psyche, of the self. But there is something deeper. For Jung, the round shape represented the maternal womb. He described the sensation of being inside the tower as being reborn in stone. In a world dominated by the patriarchy, by linear logic, and by scientific coldness, Jung sought refuge in the archetype of the Great Mother. The thick walls served not only to keep the cold out, but to contain the psychic energy within, creating an alchemical pressure necessary for transformation. Living in a circular space alters the perception of time. There is no beginning and no end, only a continuous cycle. There, Jung could regress to infant states of creativity and advance to senile wisdom, all protected by the curvature of the stone. The most radical decision of Jung was to keep the tower primitive. No electricity, no telephone, no automated central heating. Water was pumped by hand from the well. Light came only from oil lamps and the fire of the hearth. Cooking was done on a wood stove. To the modern mind addicted to comfort, this sounds like torture. For Jung, it was the sine qua non condition for sanity. He believed that modern technology creates a barrier of noise that prevents us from hearing the ancestors. The physical effort to light the fire or fetch water anchored the mind in the now. These simple acts gained a sacred dimension. The silence of the tower was not empty, it was dense. Without the hum of electricity, the senses expanded. He could hear the sound of the lake, the wind in the trees, and most importantly, the whispers of his own intuition which, in the city, were drowned out by the collective neurosis. He proved that comfort kills the spirit, and that a certain dose of physical difficulty is essential to keep the soul alert. Jung always felt he lived two lives. Personality number one was the famous doctor, the scientist, the the family man, bourgeois and adapted. But there was personality number 2, a timeless old man, mystic, skeptical of human progress, deeply connected to nature and God. In his house in Kusnet, number 1 reigned. But the Bollingen Tower was built for number 2. There, Dr. Jung disappeared. He wore old clothes, spent days without speaking, carved, painted, and wrote in Latin and Greek on the walls. The tower was the physical body of this second personality. It is a terrifying reminder for us. How many of us spend our entire lives feeding only personality number 1, suffocating the oldest and wisest part of ourselves until it sickens and turns into neurosis? Bollingen was the place where Jung's shadow was allowed to sit at the table. This is perhaps the most mystical aspect of the tower. Jung firmly believed that we carry unresolved questions from our ancestors. The dead, he said, have questions they left unanswered. He felt that his life was an attempt to answer these questions. The tower was built as a monument to them. He often felt presences there, not like ghosts in a horror movie, but as psychic densities. He carved names and phrases in memory of his parents and grandparents into the stones. He said that in the tower, the barrier between the living and the dead became translucent. By building with stone, the most durable material, he was saying to his ancestors, I am here. I remember. I am continuing the work. This teaches us about the importance of honoring our lineage, not just biologically, but psychologically, resolving the traumas that were passed down from generation to generation. Jung spent hours in the kitchen of the tower, which he considered an alchemical laboratory, preparing food, stirring pots, controlling the fire. All of this was active meditation. He said that sometimes the hands solve a mystery with which the intellect struggled in vain. Western intellectuality tends to separate the mind from the body, treating the body as a mere transport for the brain. In the tower, Jung unified the two. The act of peeling potatoes or chopping wood allowed complex thoughts about the structure of the unconscious to organize themselves in his head. He called this doing the non-doing. The simplicity of rustic life allowed theoretical complexities to be digested. If you are mentally stuck, the lesson of Bollingen is clear. Stop thinking and go do something with your hands. The kitchen of the tower was the place where raw matter turned into sustenance, just as the raw experience of life turned into wisdom. In 1950, Jung commissioned a triangular stone for the tower, but they delivered a cubic, square stone by mistake. Instead of returning it, he saw a sign there, a synchronicity. He began to carve the stone on one side, and I looking out on the other, a small homunculus reading a book. He covered the stone with alchemical and Greek inscriptions. This stone became a totem of his life. He said that the stone was him, and he was the stone. By carving the hard rock, he was carving his own psychic substance, removing the excess to reveal the essence. It is a brutal metaphor. Individuation, the process of becoming who you are, is not gentle. It demands a hammer and chisel. It demands that you break parts of yourself that no longer serve. The cubic stone of Bollingen remains there as a testimony that pain, when worked creatively, becomes art and meaning. There was a room in the tower that was restricted, a sanctuary within the sanctuary. There, Jung dedicated himself entirely to the analysis of his dreams and visions. Over the years and with the expansion of the tower, he created an upper floor that represented the elevation of consciousness. If the ground floor was contact with the earth and instincts, the upstairs was the spirit. But note, the upstairs could only exist because the stone base was solid. Jung criticized the spiritualists who wanted to ascend to the heavens without having roots in the earth. In the tower, he had apocalyptic visions about the future of Europe, premonitory dreams, and deep insights into the nature of God. It was a place where the ego surrendered voluntarily to the self. He teaches us that we need a physical or temporal space where the rules of the world out there do not apply, where we can hear what the unconscious screams. As Jung aged, the tower became more important than his normal house. He spent more and more time there. Old age, for Jung, was not a decline, but the apotheosis of life. The archetype of the senex, the wise old man, took over. In Bollingen, he did not need to prove anything to anyone. He could sit for hours watching the lake, in absolute silence, feeling part of the inanimate landscape. He wrote, "In my old age, the stones and the plants seemed to speak to me. The tower allowed him to age with dignity, integrated into nature, without the desperate modern attempt to look young forever. He accepted his wrinkles as he accepted the cracks in the stones of the tower, marks of time and experience. Balingen was the cradle of his preparation for death, faced not as an end, but as a transformation. Carl Jung died in 1961, but the tower remains. It is his heaviest book, written not with ink, but with granite. What does it tell us today, in the era of smartphones and chronic anxiety? It tells us that we have lost our soul because we have lost our place. We no longer have sanctuaries. Our houses are showcases, not refuges. We are exposed 24 hours a day. The legacy of Balingen is a challenge. Build your space. It may not be a stone tower in Switzerland. It may be a corner in your room, a garden bench, or an hour of the day where you turn everything off. But you need to build a wall against the collective madness. If you do not have a place where you are personality number 2, your essence, you will be devoured by the world. The tower is physical proof that the mind can conquer matter if it has the courage to isolate itself to find itself. The Tower of Balingen stands there, motionless by the lake, resisting the seasons and time, long after the hands that built it turned to dust. But it is not a museum of one man. It is a mirror of stone that stares at us and asks, "What have you been building with your life?" We spend our days erecting digital sandcastles, accumulating things that the wind will blow away in the first storm, while our soul remains homeless, exposed to the cold of an existence without deep meaning. Jung did not just leave us complex theories. He left us the physical example that the psyche needs a home, and that this home can only be built from the inside out. Do not fool yourself into thinking you need land in Switzerland or infinite resources to start this work. Your tower begins the instant you decide to close the door to the noise of the world and open your ears to the silence that inhabits your chest. Every time you choose your truth instead of other people's approval, you lay a stone. Every time you confront a fear instead of running from it, you fortify a wall. The sacred space is not a place where you go to hide from life, but the place where you go to find the strength necessary to live it with absolute integrity. May the image of that wise old man, carving stones and lighting fires in solitude, serve not as a distant memory, but as an urgent summons to your spirit. We are the architects of our own soul, but often we live like beggars sitting on golden thrones, forgetful of our power of creation. The unconscious is a vast and dangerous ocean, yes, but it is also the source of all creative life. Building your tower is the only way to navigate these waters without sinking, transforming the chaos of emotions into the solid structure of wisdom. If this dive into the architecture of the soul touched something that was dormant in you, if you felt the call to start your own construction, do not let the sensation evaporate. Like this video to seal this commitment to yourself. Share it with that friend who is also seeking refuge, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue, together, deciphering the maps that lead to the center of the labyrinth. Your construction begins now.